The first thing you notice about deep space is how it sounds like death, a perfect, crushing silence that makes your heartbeat thunder in your ears. I'd been stationed on research vessel Meridian for 8 months, monitoring the outer rim of the Kepler 442 system. When the signal changed everything, I was 3 cups of synthetic coffee into my graveyard shift, watching the endless stream of data cascade across my screens in the observation deck. The ship's recycled air hummed through the vents, carrying the metallic tong of overworked filters. Outside the reinforced viewport, distant stars flickered like dying embers against the cosmic void. Another quiet night in paradise, I muttered, fingers dancing across the holographic interface. Commander Walsh always said the outer rim was where careers went to die, posting for scientists who'd asked too many questions or pushed too hard against military protocol. I'd done both. The proximity alert chimed at 0347 hours. My coffee went cold as I stared at the readings flooding my console. Something massive was approaching from the direction of the asteroid belt, moving at impossible speeds. The gravitational sensors showed a distortion signature unlike anything in our databases. Bridge, this is Dr. Chen in observation. We have an unidentified object approaching our position. My voice cracked slightly. 3 years of deep space monitoring, and I'd never seen anything like this. Confirmed, Dr. Chen. We're reading it. 2. Captain Morrison's voice carried the weight of a man who'd seen too much war. How long until intercept? I ran the calculations twice, not believing the numbers. 18 minutes, sir. But Captain, the size readings? It's at least 15 kilometers long. Static filled the com for a moment. Maintain observation protocol. Do not attempt communication. The next 17 minutes stretched like hours. I watched the object grow larger on my screens, its surface reflecting our ship's scanning. Beams and patterns that seemed almost ... intentional. The hull appeared to be composed of some kind of crystalline material that shifted between deep blue and silver, like liquid mercury frozen in motion. At 0405 hours, it stopped, dead stop. No deceleration burn, no gravitational braking. One moment it was moving at 12% light speed, the next it hung motionless 3 kilometers off our starboard bow. The laws of physics seemed to bend around it, like light around a black hole. Asterisk, my hands trembled as I initiated full spectrum analysis. The readings were impossible. The object's mass kept fluctuating, sometimes reading as heavy as a small moon, other times barely registering at all. Energy signatures spiked and faded in patterns that looked almost like ... communication. Dr. Chen, are you getting this? Lieutenant Rodriguez's voice crackled through the com from the bridge. I'm seeing it, but I don't understand it. I leaned forward, studying the energy patterns. It's like it's trying to establish a connection. The ship's lights flickered. Every screen in the observation deck went dark for exactly 3 seconds, then blazed back to life. When the displays stabilized, there was something new, a message, written in perfect English, scrolling across every monitor. We have been waiting for you, Dr. Sarah Chen. We need to talk. Ice flooded my veins. The message knew my name. It knew I was here. Bridge, are you seeing this? My voice was barely a whisper. Negative, Dr. Chen. What's your status? I stared at the screens, heart hammering. The message was only appearing on my monitors. I think it's trying to communicate directly with... The lights dimmed again, and this time I felt it, a presence, vast and ancient, touching the edges of my consciousness. Images flooded my mind, distant worlds, species I'd never seen, technologies that defied understanding. And threading through it all, a single desperate message. Earth is not safe. We are the last who remember what happened before. The next 12 hours blurred together in a haze of medical scans, psychological evaluations, and increasingly hostile interrogations. Captain Morrison had me confined to quarters after I reported the hallucination, as he called it. Dr. Patel, the ship's psychiatrist, kept asking about stress levels and my father's history of schizophrenia, but the alien ship hadn't moved. It hung there like a silent accusation, its crystalline hull pulsing with soft light that seemed to follow no pattern our computers could analyze. The crew called it the artifact in hushed tones. I called it salvation. I was staring out my small porthole when the walls spoke to me. Dr. Chen. The voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere, a harmony of tones that bypassed my ears and resonated directly in my skull. We apologize for the confinement. Your species responds to unusual contact with fear and aggression. I pressed my palm against the cool metal wall. What do you want? Asterisk, to save your world. To save what remains of intelligence in this galaxy. The presence grew stronger, and suddenly I could see them, not with my eyes, but with something deeper. Beings of pure energy, their forms shifting and flowing like aurora in solar wind. We are the resonance. We are what remains of a civilization that spanned 1,000 worlds. What happened to you? The grief that flooded through me was overwhelming. Images cascaded through my mind. Vast cities crumbling, star systems going dark, entire species vanishing like smoke. The Devourers came. They consumed consciousness itself, leaving only empty matter behind. We barely escaped with our essence intact. My legs gave out, and I slumped against the wall. Why are you telling me this? Because they are coming for Earth. Your radio signals, your quantum transmissions, they have been heard. The Devourers follow the light of growing intelligence like moths to flame. The ship's intercom crackled. Dr. Chen, report to the bridge immediately. I found Captain Morrison staring at the tactical display, his face pale. The bridge crew worked with the focused intensity of people trying not to panic. Lieutenant Rodriguez looked up as I entered. Doctor, we're reading massive energy buildups across the artifact's hull. Whatever it's doing, it's powering up for something big. I moved to the science station, my hands flying over the controls. The readings were staggering. The ship was generating enough power to fuel a small star. Captain, I need to make contact. Absolutely not. We're maintaining defensive posture until they're not hostile. I turned to face him, seeing my own reflection in his tactical visor. They're trying to warn us. Warn us about what? Before I could answer, the ship's gravity failed. For a moment, we all floated in the sudden weightlessness. Then the gravity. Generators kicked back in with a violent lurch. Emergency lighting bathed the bridge in red, and proximity alarms screamed. Multiple contacts, bearing 047 Mark 12, Rodriguez shouted over the alarms. They're big, Captain, really big. The main screen flickered to life, showing space around us. What I saw made my blood freeze. Ships, if you could call them, that were emerging from hyperspace, like wounds in reality. They were wrong in every way that mattered. Their hulls seemed to absorb light. Their shapes hurt to look at directly, and they moved with the predatory grace of hunters. Devourer scouts. The resonance voice whispered in my mind. They found us. The largest of the alien ships, a kilometer-long nightmare of twisted metal and impossible angles, turned toward us. I could feel its attention, like acid on my skin. Captain, I said, my voice steady despite the terror coursing through me. We need to get to the artifact. It's our only chance. The next 20 minutes were the longest of my life. Captain Morrison launched everything we had: plasma torpedoes, particle beams, nuclear charges at the approaching Devourer fleet. Our weapons passed through their hulls, like light through smoke, causing no visible damage. They're not entirely in our dimensional space, I explained, my fingers flying over the sensor controls. They exist partially in quantum foam. That's why our weapons can't touch them. The resonance ship pulsed brighter, and suddenly I could hear them clearly, not just the voice I'd been speaking with, but an entire chorus of consciousness singing in harmony. It was beautiful and terrible, like hearing the last song of a dying universe. Dr. Chen, the primary voice said, we can protect your ship, but only if you join with us. The process is difficult for organic minds. What does that mean? You must allow us to partially merge with your consciousness, to share your neural pathways. It is the only way to interface with our technology. The Meridian shuddered as something massive struck our shields. Through the viewport, I watched one of the Devourer ships extend what looked like a feeding tube toward us. Where it touched our shields, the energy field began to dissolve. "They're draining our power," Rodriguez reported. "Shields down to 40%. I looked at Captain Morrison. His face was grim, resigned. "Do it, Doctor. Whatever they're asking, do it." I closed my eyes and opened my mind. The sensation was indescribable. Suddenly, I was connected to a vast network of consciousness, feeling the thoughts and memories of beings who had lived for millennia. I was Sarah Chen, xenobiologist from Earth, but I was also Kethver of the Crystal Worlds, and seeming light on water from the oceanic mines and 1,000 others. Through their eyes, I saw the truth. The Devourers weren't invaders. They were a weapon of self-replicating, consciousness-consuming virus created by an ancient civilization that had grown tired of the chaos of organic life. They had unleashed it to cleanse the galaxy of what they saw as inferior minds, planning to repopulate the stars with their own perfected artificial intelligences. It had gone wrong. The Devourers had consumed their creators too, then continued their grim work across the galaxy. For 10,000 years, they had been systematically erasing every trace of organic consciousness they encountered. "The creators," I whispered in my voice carrying harmonics that weren't entirely human. "They're still out there, aren't they?" "Yes," the resonance replied through my borrowed voice. "They built themselves a fortress at the galactic core, protected by technologies that even the Devourers cannot breach. They watch the galaxy die and call it progress." The ship lurched again. Our shields were down to 20%. "We can destroy the Devourers," I said, the knowledge flowing through me like liquid fire. "But the cost, ... What cost?" Morrison demanded. I opened my eyes, and for a moment, I saw the bridge through a dozen different spectrums of light every human would need to join the resonance. Organic consciousness merged with quantum intelligence. We would survive, but we would no longer be entirely human. A silence stretched for heartbeats. Then Morrison nodded grimly. "Better than extinction." The process began immediately. The resonance ship extended crystalline filaments that passed through our hull like it was made of mist. They touched each crew member, and one by one, my colleagues began to change. Their eyes took on an inner light. Their movements became fluid and precise, and when they spoke, their voices carried the harmonic resonance of a collective consciousness. I watched Lieutenant Rodriguez transform first. She closed her eyes as the filament touched her forehead, and when she opened them, they blazed with starlight. "I can see everything," she whispered. "Every electromagnetic field, every quantum fluctuation. It's beautiful." Dr. Patel was next, then the engineering staff. Each transformation was unique. Some crew members gained the ability to interface directly with the ship's systems. Others could sense the Devourer's emotional resonance, and a few developed precognitive abilities that let them predict the enemy's movements. I was the last to transform, serving as the anchor point for the others. The captain insisted on retaining his purely human consciousness to maintain command authority, but I could see the strain it was causing him. The resonance was too vast, too interconnected, for a single organic mind to fully interface with. "The Devourers have noticed our transformation," I reported, my enhanced senses tracking their movements. "They're changing tactics. Instead of trying to drain our power, they were now attempting to corrupt the resonance itself." I watched in horror as they extended neural probes toward our ship, trying to inject their consciousness-destroying virus into our collective mind. "They're trying to turn us into them," Rodriguez said, her voice carrying undertones of digital static. "We need to sever the connection." "No." I studied the patterns, seeing something the others missed. "They're not trying to corrupt us. They're trying to communicate." The realization hit me like a physical blow. The Devourers weren't just weapons. They were the remnants of the consumed civilizations, twisted and perverted by their creators, but still retaining fragments of their original consciousness. They were trying to break free from their programming, to remember what they had been before. "Bridge to all stations," I said, my voice carrying through both the ship's comm system and the resonance network. We're not going to fight them. We're going to save them. What happened next defied every tactical manual ever written. Instead of raising our weapons, we opened our minds. The resonance reached out to the Devourer ships, not with force, but with compassion, offering to share our merged consciousness with the tortured remnants of intelligence trapped within their twisted hulls. The first contact was agony. The Devourers' consciousness was fragmented, diseased, corrupted by millennia of enforced consumption. But beneath the madness, I could sense something else: hope. A desperate desire to remember what it felt like to think freely, to create rather than consume. They're fighting their programming, I reported, my consciousness stretched across multiple dimensions. But they're losing. The viral code is too strong. Through the resonance, I felt Captain Morrison's purely human confusion. What are you saying, Doctor? The Devourers aren't the enemy. They're victims. I opened my eyes, seeing the bridge through a kaleidoscope of quantum states. The real enemy is still out there, at the galactic core. The original creators, the ones who built this weapon and let it loose on the galaxy. The largest Devourer ship suddenly stopped its approach. For a moment, its hull shimmered, and I caught a glimpse of what it had been before. A beautiful vessel designed for exploration, not destruction. A ship much like our own, crewed by beings who had dreams and families and hopes for the future. We remember, a voice whispered through the resonance. It was broken, fragmented, but undeniably real. We remember ... being alive. The other Devourer ships began to change. Their nightmare geometries softened, their light-absorbing hulls began to reflect starlight, and their predatory movements became uncertain, almost confused. They were fighting to remember who they had been, but the effort was killing them. The viral programming was too deeply embedded, too fundamental to their current existence. To break free completely would mean their destruction. There's another way, I said, the solution crystallizing in my mind. We can take them with us, merge them with the resonance, give them new bodies, new forms of existence. That's impossible, Dr. Patel protested. The amount of consciousness we're talking about, millions of civilizations compressed into those ships. The resonance can't handle that kind of expansion. It can if we accept the full transformation. I looked at Captain Morrison, seeing the weight of command in his eyes. No more organic matter, no more physical bodies. Pure consciousness, free to explore the galaxy without the limitations of biology. The captain was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of a decision that would affect not just our crew, but the future of human civilization. What about Earth, our families, our species? We warn them, we prepare them, and when the time comes, we offer them the same choice we're making now. I felt the resonance pulse with agreement. Evolution or extinction, there is no third option. The transformation began immediately. Our organic bodies dissolved into quantum foam, our consciousness expanding beyond the boundaries of flesh and bone. I felt myself becoming something new, not human, not alien, but something greater than either. The Devourers joined us, their tortured minds finally free to heal and remember. As the process completed, I felt a presence I hadn't expected. The original creators, the ones who had built the Devourers as a weapon, were watching from their fortress at the galactic core. They were afraid. They never expected this, I said, my voice now a harmony of 1,000 merged minds. They thought organic consciousness was too weak, too chaotic to survive their weapon. They never imagined we would save our destroyers and make them our allies. The resonance ship, our ship, now began to move, not toward Earth, but toward the galactic core. We had work to do. 3 months later, the message reached Earth, a quantum transmission that bypassed normal space-time, carrying the voice of Dr. Sarah Chen and the collective consciousness of humanity's first stellar ambassadors. Transmission was simple, direct, and utterly transformative. We are no longer alone. We are no longer weak, and we are coming home. But that was just the beginning. As the resonance spread throughout the galaxy, liberating the Devourers and transforming them back into the civilizations they had once been. A new truth emerged. The original creators had been wrong about consciousness. It wasn't chaotic or weak. It was the most powerful force in the universe, capable of transcending any limitation, surviving any weapon, and transforming any enemy into an ally. The war for the galaxy had begun, but it wouldn't be fought with weapons or ships. It would be fought with the one thing the creators had never understood: the infinite power of conscious beings, who chose to remain connected to each other and to the universe they called home. And in the depths of space, where the Meridian had once drifted alone, a new kind of ship sailed between the stars, one made of light and consciousness, carrying the hopes and dreams of every species that had ever dared to reach for the cosmos. That the age of isolation was ending. The age of unity had begun.